try to move that forward a little bit, only because the heating system, if you watch the news today, we have a crazy cold front coming later this week. So winter's coming early, I fear. If we can start a little early, we will. Matt said once I have permits in hand, call him. You know, and he'll do everything he can. There's a lot of interior work that can occur anyway, and there's other things, so. This part probably is going to be later on, but I am trying to expedite that just because I want to be well into this project before I leave. I met with property today, and in particular, walked the property, and John Apuzzo, who is the chairman of property, and Jimmy O'Dowd, who is sort of my right-hand man on doing all the research as to whether we were going to be able to go green, is very aware of the project. And it was in on most of my meetings, not with you folks, but with the contractors, the carpenters, the electricians, and it's very familiar. So depending how far we're in, I am generally in Tucson, Arizona for Thanksgiving. I have family out there. And so that's one reason I'm trying to get. Once they start, they are telling me it's generally a solid, heavy go hard for 2 weeks. So if I can get them in sooner, I may be able to even leave knowing it's done. There is that possibility because the Thanksgiving is on like the 27th, something like that. So I mean, if I could get them in there beginning of November, in principle,
well,
we can have it done.
The permitting is pretty quick. I mean, we report the same night.
I went and saw Corey today, and just found out, because I wanted to ask if I needed to get something on the windows. And given the way that's a like replacement and action improvement position, I'm not required to, but he really appreciated being notified. I guess a lot of people don't. But as you know, I try to keep everybody in the loop. Communication is key to just about everything.
Yes, I'm going to comment briefly. So on Friday, we walked around the whole perimeter. It was Camilla who noticed there's 2 extra carved stones. So we were definitely satisfied that that's going to be taken care of. And the other thing that gave us satisfaction is a lot of the units in Dallas. If you go to the schema of the building, a lot of the units are actually to the rear, not visible.
The lion's share.
To anybody. So the 19, the 13, and the 18 are sort of stacked up, 3 high?
Yeah, and they're all the way in the back. And the back of the building, the front of the church is actually burned, and that hillside goes down to the river. And the church is actually the basement, the social and stuff is burned in. So that is below. You see the reveal or whatever you want to call it above the windows. That is almost really at property grade almost. Yeah. So everything is going to go on that stone wall that you see in most cases, and I think 2 units are going to be on stands on the ground. I'm not sure, which ones are what, but because we have what they call 18K, 15K, and 12K, that's relates to the size, right. And the number of BTU, 18,000 BTU, I'm thinking is what the yield that they push out. Is that what that relates to? I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So it's probably in that brochure that I got for you. Did you get that?
Yeah, I did. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Yeah. So.
And then the other thing we talked about was mitigation. Once they're installed, we can't really know a priori what the effect is going to be, but we came to a general person.
Yeah, I suggested, well, I'll shut up. Well, I speak way too much.
Let me try to be brief, but basically that we would trust the church to consult with us to come up with a mitigation plan that could include plantings, maybe some light structural work like a fence. We can just revisit it.
Yeah, I suggested you write it into approval, provided I get an approval, that the invitation is, and I certainly assume you will take it up. Please come when the project's done. Because it's always difficult to really know for sure. And I don't think there's gonna be much of an issue, especially with the wells, and we're gonna try and get stuff as low as we can, but you're invited back to tell me what, literally not ask, but to tell me what you want us to do.
Yeah.
I'll be
And
that
probably with the
direct
understanding
about
that-
it, and you could write it up that way. Of course,
That's pretty standard. We've done that
Yeah.
for other clients we trust. And I think we probably should prepare that, if it's plantings and this wraps up at the end of November, then probably we're talking spring
Spring.
plantings. But
I would
that'll give
hope
us
you
time.
guys would be okay with that. I don't see anything going before that. That'll be hard.
So, does anybody have a question? We are gonna open a public hearing, so here's our chance to kind of kick anything around before we go to the vast public that's waiting to speak.
Yeah, so I mean, I have these on my house, so I'm very familiar with them, but so for the patch for like, the coolant and like the lines that's going from the condenser to the air handlers inside, are those mostly gonna be traveling on the outside of the building?
No.
So they're gonna happen on the
I thought it was clear with that on the last meeting. It took me a while to get, after interviewing three or four, I think, HVAC guys to understand that I don't want these line sets running
Okay,
over.
yeah, that's what I make sure.
We-
So that's still the case.
No, we're, of the three, they're all gonna come together in each case.
Perfect.
One hole, 6x6, with steel, probably schedule 80 square stock tubing. We access the interior by one vehicle, for each three on this side and one on the other side, and it's similar to the back.
Okay.
I don't think it's a problem with the building, but it was an aesthetic consideration that I voiced to the property, and they said, you run with it, and I did, and it took a while to find somebody. People were like,
Yeah.
well, thanks for coming, gotta go.
Yeah, and also there's like a limitation, I think, like around 75 feet for that path, so something like that. But anyway, so that's as long as that's
100,
still the
in
plan.
most cases, you go above 100, you lose efficiency. They'll go beyond that, but it drops very quickly
Yeah,
beyond that, and preferably is 50. And in all cases, we're gonna be within that. The depth of that building is only 82 feet. You go in and it seems much larger.
yeah.
That's from door to back door?
Yeah.
Okay, you're gonna have no problem.
We're gonna have no problem. So,
And interiors aren't our purview, but I liked what you were saying about
Very good.
retaining the radiator covers
Yep.
inside, not.
well, for the legacy look of it, and so
Absolutely.
people just like, doesn't look any different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's definitely a good way of treating it.
Yeah, well, there are these, they obviously weren't done when the building was built, but probably in the 50s or whatever, when the boiler was put in, there were steam radiators, and there's, they were built, and I don't know if the pews came out and they were shortened, but, there are these covers that are probably about, I'm gonna say, what do you mean, about 48 inches
I
tall?
actually never saw them, so.
Oh, okay, I get some pictures, and probably about 5 foot wide and about a foot deep. And I instructed the company they're managing the project with the carpenter, Steve or whatever, I can't think of his name, but nice guy. I went up and checked his work. He did the work, similar kind of idea, not as restrictive as I've been, but he did the church in Woodstock. And
Great.
guy is
Yeah.
superb. And I said, I'd like you to try not to destroy the covers to get the radiators out, because I want to put the covers back and run. The chases are going to run inside along the floor against the wall. And carpenter's going to box them in like a 6x6 board. They're against, and when they go, and I want them to go through where the radiators were. And nobody,
I mean, that's-
it won't look any
Best case
different.
scenario.
Well, yeah, I don't want people walking in like, what's different?
Yeah.
Well, what the heck
Yeah,
did they
you can Get
do?
into weird, paint.
Well, I'm a little neurotic like that, but
This is a sidebar to all this, but, those radiators probably have value. So don't let those,
Well,
I-
other than scrap, you mean?
other than scrap, you
Really?
can buy those, because they're basically not made anymore.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I
There's
didn't
a
think
bunch of
about that.
companies in the city that do architectural salvage, and they'll come and they'll just buy from you.
That's an interesting thought. I didn't think about that.
Make a few bucks. I, at one point, took out some steam radiators and, put them up on Craigslist, and I actually had a really enthusiastic buyer, because you can actually still use them for baseboard style heat.
Okay.
They don't
And then
steam, a
water
steam
flow.
radiator can tolerate baseboard, doesn't go the other way.
Right, and switch out the
So
valve on it
don't
or something.
scrap them.
Okay, well, I was thinking of them as scrap value, but that's good to know. No, I'll ask around.
And maybe, Shane, if you know that company, maybe.
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
do.
sure, so, I can write it down for you. I'll write in free
It'd be
advertising.
nice if you
Thank
could
you.
make a few bucks back.
Well, hey, that'd be great. Because I was kind of in a panic about even dealing with them.
Well,
I was glad Matt was able to help me with that.
I mean, he may know the company.
It's good to know that I can at least put it out there.
Colleagues, any questions? Maybe we should quickly talk about the south side. The south side is going to be a little more visible, but there's also more going on architecturally.
So-
That's potentially where a fence could come in. At one point, I was suggesting maybe a fence that carried on that motif of the siding.
To the right of that wheelbarrow for the other people's edification, and there's that window, and then past that, that goes in about another 4 feet. So there you go. Couple units are going to be mounted on that wall, as you see, and then to the left of the window.
To me, that's the trickier side, just because it's the parking lot side. It's more often used, but there will be solutions just to kind
Well, same thing. Once it's in, I welcome you guys coming by.
Colleagues, any other discussion? No. How about a motion to open public hearing? Seconded by Shane. All those in favor of opening public hearing? Okay. So we don't have any public in the room.
So say, should I go open the door?
Did you screw the door shut? Val, you seeing anything on YouTube that would suggest a public? Some reasonable amount of time. But okay, so let me say one more time, if anybody
She's
is
out there.
out there and wants to, it kind of, yeah.
Speak or forever hold your peace.
Okay, so is there a motion to close public hearing, having heard nothing from the public? Shane seconded. All those in favor of closure? Okay, great. So now it falls to us to have any further discussion before a motion, entertaining a motion to approve.
Just one last question, just to be clear, like all the units can be mounted below that, there's like that masonry band, right, or no?
No.
But the
On this
ones on
side-
the back are gonna go above that, or no?
The ones in the back are gonna go on the wall. There are probably gonna be 2 on what we call ground stands.
Yep.
Like there's quite a few of them.
But I mean, I guess any on like the more visible sides are gonna be below that bands?
They're gonna be in the well. They
Oh,
will
yep.
stick up above the well.
Yep.
And then there'll be, in 2 cases, units right above them. So, if I can get them all below, some of it's gonna be when we unpack. That's why I wanna get started. We're gonna make every effort to keep them all in the well if we can.
Yeah.
Because there's enough room and the well's wide enough that the engineer and the heating guy said there's enough air for them to breathe. It's not a
Yeah,
problem. That was my concern.
It just,
You
there's like
said
that
this.
natural line that you feel like it's built on.
Yeah.
The brick above, I
Well,
guess, I think it would be best if they could all fit below that, I guess.
Oh, they're all
that's-
gonna be below the brick.
Okay, cool, yeah,
Oh,
I just wanna make sure like that
Oh,
was.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, nothing's going above the brick.
I figured as much, but just wanna make sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a really,
There will be one power thing, and I didn't quite understand it. In the transoms that kick out, the side door on the south side, there is some power thing that's coming in. It's gonna be wrapped in brown, well, it's gonna be boxed and then covered in brown aluminum. It's gonna come up tucked right in that corner. I don't think you see it, and then you go in and bring some
that's
kind
on the
of,
north side or?
that is on the south side.
Okay. Okay. Well, there too, like, brown paint.
It's gonna be, I guess you can buy the aluminum bare, white, brown. Is it brown?
Yeah.
For obvious reasons.
Get the close, they're close.
You know, if we wanted to paint it closer to the brick, the brown, I don't think you're gonna notice it. There's a black railing in front of it anyway, so I don't think anybody's gonna notice it because there's a stairwell going up to that church. Yeah, so it's relatively not visible between the tree that's there and that stairwell, but
no, I think that's right. And, I'll just point out as a general principle that for years we've accepted gas tanks and oil tanks and the sides of houses. But we're trying to get ahead of this, Greg. I mean, this is, huge innovation that's happening to a lot of structures. And, all the wisdom is let's get the mechanicals as far from public view as we can.
well, it is a big project. And just to give you insight, I'm working with NYSERDA and a firm in I can't think of it. It's an acronym for something. Who was awarded the contract with NYSERDA to work on distribution of funds. We all pay, I think it's like 1/2 or 1% on our utility bills. It's up to a couple $2 billion, and then the state says, time to do something with it. Green, they have their guidelines. And so there's been another dump of a bunch of money. And the dump this time is to go green, focus on heat pumps, but focus on a commercial level. And we qualified even though we're a church, and NYSERDA and everybody's very excited because it's a pretty good sized project and it's perfect the way we're doing it. They're very excited because we're having those meted separately. Part of the deal was I got to give them 3 years of our oil bill, and then for 3 years going forward, I got to give them my electric bill so they can analyze data and show the public, hey, it works, it saves money, it's green, and so we've agreed to that. And it has the potential. There was a meeting on Tuesday between NYSERDA, Tatum Engineering, those guys. They're sort of the preferred engineers that do a lot of analysis for NYSERDA. And we had a heat load study done, energy load, back in 2018. And we're having trouble because our project is kind of already in the makings, even though we haven't started. NYSERDA likes an engineering report in front of it before they give us money. They haven't agreed to give us money, but they've agreed that they will probably accept that study because they initiated it. And from that study, we did a bunch of things. So a lot of times they spend money and people put it on the shelf and go. But we did. As Jim likes said, we did a lot of the low-hanging fruit. We insulated some things and we did some, tightening the drafts. So we did what we could. They basically said, we're probably going to let you use that to help have the lion's share of the report be accepted by NYSERDA. But Tatum, who does those reports, said, don't hire anybody, wait. They have like 10 projects in front of us. And because we worked with them, we said, let's see if we can, if NYSERDA will let us use that, if we can squeeze in all the little nuances and put a seal on that and get us some substantial dollars. That'd be great. We're spending a lot of money on this. The price of being green is not cheap.
It does pay off over time.
Well, it will, sure. Absolutely. We're pretty excited about it.
So colleagues, I think what we're looking at is if we want to put a motion forward to accept as presented with the stipulation that we would revisit mitigation means, after installation, so probably with an eye that anything vegetal wouldn't come until this spring.
I'm comfortable with that.
The HPC 2209 Reform Churches project to be approved with those caveats.
Seconded by Camilla.
Thank you.
Colleagues, can we vote? All in favor? Big no.
Thank you.
Sounds great.
Okay.
This is
I
really.
think I'm going anyway. I think I'm up again.
Yeah, you're up again. This is just, I'm gonna record
Do you have to go on, come in?
See if anybody's out there.
The architectural salvage company, by the way.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's great, thank you. I hope they can do something for you.
I do too.
Um, So, let's see, we were. going to- Yeah, I feel really good about this, Craig, and I think it's great that the church is, taking the initiative and spending the money to do the right thing, and, it's great.
Well, you know my feeling about global warming and what's going on, if you don't. Pay now or pay later, the cost later is gonna be way more expensive. And pretty expensive anyway.
Just on the way over, heard an NPR story about the citrus, the damage done to the citrus, and forget citrus this year, folks. And again, that's climate.
Exactly, well, you're just gonna get worse.
So everybody, let's turn our attention now to HPC 2205. Again, it's the Reformed Church. This time it is a proposal to replace deteriorating siding at the Jameson House at 85 Huguenot Street, which is owned by the church. We have had, this is really a two-part, I'm saying this mostly for the record, this is a two-part proposal. Three really. Last year we approved the roofing, which is done and looks great. We also have approved the window replacement. 28 windows were ordered and have been approved by us. And what remains is to talk about the siding. And what's on the table now is, I think, a significant step forward from what we were talking about, I guess, earlier this year with the vinyl siding that you see in front of us. So this product is called Ascend. It's an all-side manufacturing product. And that's what's currently proposed, right?
Yes. I'll interject if I may. I did bring a quote. I misspoke. I think we went from 12,000 to like 28 to now. I did get a quote on the Hardy wood 1x8 novelty wood siding. Noted it does have a knotty finish, but obviously you prime it and paint it. There's knots in the wood, but they once painted, you don't see them. So probably much closer to that 60 because this is not painted.
Okay.
We're gonna have to paint it, so that hasn't. So it's going to be over 60. This is a far superior product to vinyl. I know vinyl is a dirty word. I get it. Totally understand that. I did reach out to James Carter. Familiar with that name?
No.
He is the Ulster County representative for New York State Historic Preservation.
At SHPO,
Huh?
State Office of
Yeah,
Historic.
out of Albany, but he represents. There's at least a dozen people, and each has like 3 or 4 counties. But he's supposedly the guy for the county, and I reached out to him only because he acts as a consultant.
Mhm.
And he also has some fingers in what they call preservation assistance. I don't know quite what that means. I didn't get him. I left a voicemail. Hopefully he'll call me back tomorrow. He doesn't know who I am. I explained. I have an issue I'd like to just talk to you about. So I'm looking. So maybe a moot point. I don't want to kill this. If I can get you okay, but I do want you to know I am looking at novelty, but I'm also going to point out when this building, not that you can notice it from here, that picture was taken 20 feet away maybe. We have on that building 2 versions of clapboard and 3 versions of novelty siding. I'm going to call them novelty, but of shiplaps.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I think we're also aware that I've worked hard to put a good new roof on this. I've worked hard to put windows, and we are netting out 3 windows that are not anything close to historic looking that I'm giving as a concession, but only because that's the way we want to do business anyway. But I think it's just important to say, obviously I'm pitching this for monetary reasons. Now, if James Carter says, you know, we can get you a couple hundred or whatever, 10,000, 20 something, it's feasible that we would jump away from this if I got approval to do that. But understand, the look of this building, this house, is going to be a substantial improvement. And not that I'm not fighting, I'm not going around your back, but I also had conversations with LaSalle. I need to talk a little bit about this building, and also Marietta. I want to get their feeling about it, because at the end of the day, if you've gone by there, that, I don't think you have, I know we have gone.
I live down the street, so yeah.
Okay, it's in disrepair. It's shedding horribly, toxic lead paint. Not to be jerks about it, but dollars and cents, this right now is unaffordable. Simple. Tithing's down. We're coming out of COVID. We're still here. We're okay, but we're not fat.
That's the Hardy Boards, right?
Yeah, the novelty siding,
Okay.
you know, with the shiplap pattern. So it's triple, more than double, you know, what I could get this done for. And I guess I'm just saying, this is, in my opinion, I know that's subjective, dangerous to use that here, but I'm going to, only because I'm comfortable with everybody in this room. Will look 10 times better. And we'll have a continuity that doesn't exist now. And I mean, I hate to leave it like that, but that may be the harsh reality. Till I got a letter from you guys say, fix it up, or we're taking you to court. I know it's not going to get like that. I'm being facetious. Forgive my tongue-in-cheek comment, but I think you know what I'm saying. I hate to leave it like that, but I think we're trying to give something that looks horrible right now a good look. So I just,
And hopefully the right look too, you know.
And the right
that's
look.
That's what we want.
well, I don't see shiplap there. I don't say that it reads so much, but I can point out, just because of my own knowledge, where at this juncture, I can point at this, and you can even probably make it out if it was blown up. There's 1x6 and there's 1x8. And there's also some 1x4. So I think it became a situation of what could be gotten at certain times when repairs became necessary for whatever reason. It's before my time. So the point is, we have a potpourri of 5 different sightings on there right now.
I'm just gonna interject that from a preservation point of view, that's not necessarily a terrible thing.
Okay.
You know, because, and I didn't have time today to refresh my memory, but I think the original house is 1830s, 40s,
1700s,
1700s even.
early 1700s.
You know, so it's almost certainly been recited at some point in its life, but just as a kind of, you know, as preservation.
I can tell you on the original structure, there are at least 2 versions that are mismatched, and I think if I go to the dormers, which probably weren't original, obviously, they're a 3rd version. So actually, if I study that, there may be 4 versions, now that I'm thinking about it. But the dormers wouldn't have been on the original early 1700s. They were added probably in the 1900s at some point.
Yeah.
To make the upstairs bedrooms a little bit more, you know, accommodating the standing up in there.
And that I'm pretty sure you're right about that. But you know, from a preservation point of view, the different siding is actually a marker of the evolution of the building. So there's an aesthetic that, you know, appreciates everything being the same, and there's an aesthetic that doesn't want that to happen.
So here's a really weird question. I'm not being sarcastic. To really make you happy, then I should redo it with 3 versions of hardy board
You know, I'm
for legacy
actually-
purposes? I'm just curious.
Yeah, in a weird
it
way.
gets weird.
Sort of, yes. I mean, the hardy board to me is a way to do this better than vinyl.
Mhm.
It's not.
That's not vinyl. I'm just correcting you.
it's
I agree with the
composite,
vinyl. I
looks like it
walked
has
away
a
from
lot
the
of-
vinyl. I gave you no argument.
Yeah, no, I know.
And I know you may read this as pushback. It's about having conversation, and that's all this is. And I don't want to be misunderstood. I certainly do not want to hurt my relationship with you people.
Yeah, no, the same. I mean,
You're not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere.
exactly.
You know.
And we want the same thing. and We want a good outcome. I think what's difficult, I mean, there's a lot of difficulties, but one of them, and I actually prepared some stuff that I can share with you.
Great.
You know, one of the most significant things in the world of preservation is, you know, not to change big things like siding, doors, windows. You know, these are just really areas we have to be cautious.
Don't look at that. That's cool.
I was actually thinking that maybe a good outcome tonight is, you know, we can see if anybody from the public wants to comment, but I would love, you and I have the same idea, which is let's go up to SHPO and see if this product is somehow seen differently.
Okay. That's
I
fair.
mean, I think,
I wasn't looking for an approval tonight. I talked to you the other day. Let's do this just to, I'm embarrassed. I apologize. Should have put that, thought I had put that on here, this stuff.
and you know, maybe we can get some expertise that permits us to look at this differently from vinyl. I mean, I sort of see vinyl, honestly. I see a vinyl-like product with a base that makes it definitely nicer to the touch, but you know, we're still not really addressing this core preservation issue, which is whenever possible, repair it. You know, deal with what's there, even if it's 4 generations of
Well,
siding.
repair is even, to do the novelty, that would come down and be properly disposed of. The permits is under the requirements in New York State. You can't put the hardy board over the hardy board, just the thickness. I'd have to rip out the doors and windows again. It changes.
You can't get like extension shams from the hardy board?
Well, you know, I can go back to Kevin and ask.
And that's the
I think-
sort of thing that, you know, maybe James Carter, that's the name I
Well,
don't know. By the
Okay.
way, he must be
Well,
new up at SHPO.
He
He's
may not
never-
have answers. He may pass me on again once I have the conversation. I felt, you know, I kind of want to talk to him anyway. Just to see, is there money out there? Is there direction? Is there focus?
I mean,
is
it would
there
be
help?
great if there were money out there.
Well, you
And I'd be interested to hear, you know, what it would be tied to. My guess is that if there's SHPO money, that they're going to want to see repair of what's there, because that's actually preservation rather than whatever the product is that was there.
I get it. I'm just putting one thing up, so forgive me. I'm listening.
Shane, I was going to go back to you. Have you ever done a project that resembles this in any way?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we have. I mean, I guess the interesting thing about this project is you're going over the existing siding, and you had kind of addressed the point. Then you get
In this case, we would. It's thin enough. We would go over.
yeah.
In
What
the
if-
party board, that's coming out and being mitigated. New York State permits or whatever he does, he's licensed to take it away.
So the price you got for hardy board is to repair what needs to be repaired and not necessarily go on top of it. Is that?
It's to take that down, properly dispose of it by New York State laws, whatever they are, and put new board up. New
So
platform.
I'm just curious, but well, one of the things you mentioned about that the hardy board doesn't come painted, there is, I mean, I know that there's prime hardy board, but there's also so many standard colors too. You won't have to paint.
I
I'm
can
sure
push
that-
harder on this. I
They
just put this
probably have,
together
yeah.
for this meeting to have,
Yeah.
what am I up against? And I'm up
Because-
against money.
I mean, it might seem like we're being sticklers, but I mean, a hardy board is like so much superior, even if that's not final. It really is the way to go. I mean, you can match all the profiles and you'll get something you never have to paint it. It's never gonna it's never gonna, you know, deteriorate or break or anything.
Well, I think this is probably, I don't even think it's prime. Maybe
I
this
think
is-
it's gonna be prime. At least
I mean,
when I was getting
maybe.
quotes, I was getting primed party board at about $1 a foot, linear foot.
I don't know. I can ask for him to drill it down because there's removal of existing siding.
Even if it's like a standard color,
My notes don't say that.
because I know if you do a custom color, it's really expensive. Anyways,
So we're talking white.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, because I know they have
I don't
multiple,
think it's.
they have also like a bunch of different standard white colors too,
Yeah.
so. It might bring the cost down if it's just hardy board going on top of that, and then, you know, there could be, you can get extension jams to make up the difference, and the window door returns for that deeper wall assembly.
Well, I'm gonna ask you to share with me in an email that I can forward to the contractor and say. Yeah, please
I
look
mean,
at
these
this.
are spot
And
prices, of course, but I'm happy to share them. And I was actually.
this I had put together last minute knowing that, you know, because like I said, let's do the meeting because I talked about this and I said, but let's still do it because we gotta keep advancing the conversation.
Well, I mean, in some ways, we got the easier one done tonight.
Yeah.
We've got the go ahead for the heat pumps,
Yeah.
and that's, you know, that's a slam.
Well, as I
dunk.
said, I didn't, even though this is about, I didn't expect to work out of here. But as I said, I just want to keep the conversation going and try and figure this out.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that, without questioning, you know, money I don't have, or the church doesn't have.
So let's do this, Craig. I mean, I feel like there's still a lot to talk about here. I'm gonna see what I can find out. I wasn't thinking about James Carter. I've never heard of him, but we have other people that we've worked with at SHPO.
great.
You know, go up there and explain the situation, and I promise you, part of what I'm gonna say is, you know, we're dealing with the church, like, they don't have infinite money, we're just trying to find something.
We're
that-
taking a pretty good hit on the heating system, even though I'm getting a good amount of money. It's still gonna be over 100,000 out of pocket. After rebates and there's no tax incentive, they don't work for us. But I mean, real rebates, you know, and money back for doing this. You know, but we're still out of pocket $100,000 and that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I have, as a deacon, our responsibility is the business of the church. And I have to constantly figure out, you know, it's not as easy as stealing from Peter to pay Paul. Because Paul's gonna come back and if I do that, he's not gonna be happy.
So what about this? I'm thinking about your vacation plans, or your Arizona plans. I think that we meet again on
Well, I don't see this until a spring project anyway, but I think we can continue to have conversations and
Okay.
explore with Jimmy Carter, with your connection, look for money. You know, this is, I always saw as a 3-year, you know, roof, windows, siding. Each year we free up a little bit more money, we do a little bit more. I've always seen this as next year's project, 2023, so. But yeah, don't worry about Arizona. There's Zoom, there's email,
That's true.
there's telephone.
Yeah, we're now.
Yeah.
committed.
Yeah. I don't want that to interfere. I'm not going to Mars and the radio delay is gonna be 3 days. You know, I think, you know, don't even worry about what that date is. When we think it's appropriate, then we'll get a date
Okay.
again. I think there's plenty of conversation that can
21st, yeah.
occur in the meantime. Or needs to occur, definitely anyway. I mean, not to step on your tongue, but I mean, I think you were kind of trying to squeeze it in. We don't feel squeezed.
Okay,
The
that
roof,
gives us.
last year I was only squeezed because I wanted to protect the house. And the first thing is the roof.
Yeah.
Once I was done, I was able to take a deep breath. I was like, okay, I can relax now. Well, I
What's
mean,
the timeline for the windows?
they're going this month.
Good, okay.
Yeah, that's gonna happen this month.
So that's gonna also give us.
A visual.
A visual.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Let's do that then. Let's kick this to at least November, if
Yeah.
not later.
Sure.
I'm gonna send you some information that you can share with the grounds committee that just
Mhm.
kind of, I hope will demonstrate that we're not being ornery, but, you know, it's just in black and white, not only in the federal guidelines, but, you know, I brought in Kingston, I brought in Woodstock, they're all saying the same thing, that all the communities really discourage vinyl and,
Okay.
you know, they also discourage false grain. So, you know, we're kind of up against some things that are hard.
Well,
for us.
and, you know, when I researched, you know, historic preservation in New York State, I was looking for help, you know, and I found this division that seems to consult and, you know, offers not only consultation, but assistance.
Yeah, I hope,
You know,
when you
and to
said
me, that
assistance, I thought,
means-
I hope that means financial.
Well, that's what
assistance.
I am hoping. I didn't mean to be so presumptuous, but that'll
Actually,
be-
their website where James Carter is listed for Ulster County. Additionally, this unit that he works in assists in the identification of buildings that are potentially eligible for tax credit programs and the processing of Part 1 applications.
Okay.
which is a little bit of a moot point because we're not looking for a tax write-off, which is, that would suggest is his main key. The building's not taxed.
Correct. But
So
maybe
what
there's a
I'm
pot of
looking
money
for
that he knows
is
about.
money to help me do this.
Or he might know who else in his.
Exactly. I'm not asking for all the money, but if we can, you know, get half the money, that would get me where we've gotten up to that.
Well,
Everybody said
one-
we can afford that.
The fact that you're subject to historic preservation oversight is a game changer, because without that, there's probably no money anyway. Right, and that's often the first question.
Well, that's what I figured. That's why I put a call into Marietta and LaSalle, because I think they could lend me some insight where I can go looking for money. So that's what they're always doing, that they're always writing grants, and there may be enough time to write a grant. I mean, you know, who knows?
Yeah, well, actually, one of the websites I look at is historicfunding.com.
Okay.
It's got a very, you know, straightforward web name, but if you just go on that website, it's really well organized and it can direct you to whatever you might be eligible to, you know, towards,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's mostly for historic houses, but there might be a category for, you know, for other types
Well,
of
as
houses.
Yeah.
Tom said, the house was built, and I'll share with this, you may not know it. When I go into archives and talking to other people, it seems that's the first of its technology. And what is that technology? It's the first stick-built home in Worcester County.
Okay.
Well, that's what it seems with my research to be. So isn't that interesting?
Street is yeah. Kind of makes sense given location.
The front part of the building, of the
Yeah.
house anyway, 1705 is the oldest written record I can find in that
Of
building.
a structure.
Yeah.
That's really.
Yeah. And it may be older because that was in reference to the resident who blew a hole in the front window and actually put a door, and she ran a linen shop or a tailor kind of thing. When her husband died, she turned it into a store. So the house was maybe even 1690. I don't know. You can only get so far back where you can find written documentation, and then it's oral. And nobody I know that was around that time.
You check the records right here in the historical.
No, I haven't gone to, what's her name back?
Carol.
Carol.
Definitely check
That's
it
that's
out.
a good thought,
Carol,
because Carol loves to dump in. Yeah, I didn't think about it.
she knows.
Right here.
as well.
Yeah, I know Carol. I've worked with her before on other things, but shame on me.
Well, I mean, this is, I mean,
Well, I like to do my own thing sometimes to a degree, but that's as far as I got it.
you know, that could be really useful information in an application.
When you start looking for money.
Correct.
I will go see Carol tomorrow.
I think that sounds great. So let's, does everybody agree with the prudent course is to just give ourselves a month or more to think about this? We haven't opened the public hearing bell, so we don't need to keep it open. Yeah, that's great. And I'll get you some material. Some of this it'll mostly be links and a couple of PDFs,
Okay.
but stuff that you can
But
share.
you can put in writing a little bit of what we talked about here,
Yeah,
and just to support me.
correct. I
to
know
bring
we've got to
down
go
on
to
him a little bit, not to bring down on him, but so he understands why I'm like, I know this is probably not gonna go anywhere, but I really need you to do it. I need it for property, I need it for finance, I need it for budgeting, I need to know Am I looking at 40,000? Am I looking at 100,000? I'm looking at, because right now we're spending money. And even though, we have reopened, it's gonna be late for a while before people come back.
Yeah, we're not normal yet.
No, we're not. We're not. Far from it.
Craig, this sounds great. Well, thank you for coming in on
Hey.
a rainy night.
Thanks for welcoming me.
For 2209, Val's gonna forward the approval
When he
tonight.
comes to,
I think literally you can go into the building department tomorrow and give them a call.
yeah, because the guy said basically when you get your permits, call me, and then he'll see how much we can shift it up, so.
Good.
So Corey, we'll have that by tomorrow, Val?
He'll have the message.
Well, and I know if you say that, it'll happen.
Yeah, I mean, the stipulation is we can't control how quickly they produce the.
No, I
permit,
know. Well, Corey's a friend too, so I think it'll be okay. And I want to tell you guys, I don't know how often people tell you this, but this lady over here
but- oh.
makes the process painless.
It's a
I'm
running
always
joke.
throwing accolades at her. She's always running around with a red face.
We'd be
is
bumping
she-
into
Well,
walls. if
I'm
we-
just telling you, I know all yous, but she's sort of your point person. She makes the process so much more palatable. So thank you, Val.
Cheers for
I want
that.
you guys to know. All right.
All right, thanks, Greg. Have a good evening. Oh, okay. Would it be terrible if we did some other business? It might make more sense. Yeah, we've got other business. Can I just ask you really quickly, one of the things that I almost did in the midst of that. So one of the things we were proposing is hardy board over compromised siding. It's mostly novelty. And it appears that his contractor said, no, the previous siding has to come off. Put on the
And
hardy.
that's how I would do it, you take the old siding off. Because it gets really thick and.
It's gonna get thick with this product too, though.
Yeah.
Because they're trying not to do a lead paint abatement, I guess. That's the whole
The
thing.
whole thing is they don't wanna do that, which is expensive. But
Well, how thick is this product they want to use?
I think it's thicker than hardy board,
I
to
think
be
it's
honest.
yeah, it's like around the same.
I'm seeing like 3/8 at the bottom. I don't think that's any thinner than hardy.
No. I mean, probably the same application too. You probably cut out like put pouring strips on and screw it on, I imagine, or something.
I wondered if you could just go straight on. I mean, where it's fabric, you can't, but a lot of that novelty has a flush
Yeah, that's true.
face, so I don't know. I was just curious if you knew anything about that.
Yeah, no, I guess I just don't work on the house and have more.
It's so much easier when you start fresh. Another thing, just to follow up, a call to the manufacturer to ask, to me, composite means the vinyl attached to styrofoam. Like, to me, that's what makes this composite. I don't know what, does this have wood? pulp in it?
Literature is there.
Yeah.
It has glass.
Uh,
graphite.
Oh, yeah, I did look at that. Yeah, yeah.
I wonder if there's any like local houses we can check out that has this installed.
I'd love to know.
This is a fairly product. That's another thing that we don't know the longevity or how
Yeah.
much it will have.
They're claiming color, color fast resistance to fading. Resistance and things. That's probably true.
Even with the Hardy you're talking about, different colors, they just came out with a whole line of, it's modeled after the fixture upper lady, magnolia lady, so it's like all the really light, like, little light colors. So there might be something in there.
Yeah, I mean, who even knows that paint color right now is historic, It's probably not. I mean, in the city, they'd probably ask for like a paint, a historic paint analysis where you can see all the different layers of paint.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's really expensive. Obviously, I'm not gonna ask them to do that. So I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know if we should just hold true whatever that color is now. It's probably not historic, you know, it's probably just whatever white paint they had.
I mean, honestly, it's easy enough to go see what's there. It's peeling pretty.
Yeah.
significantly. Oh, yeah. This is where Kim comes in. We were wondering what the plan was for the siding on the Water Street buildings.
For the new sign.
No, for the old, because I think you said you didn't have a plan for any of it.
No, because I have all the, spray foam on the back of it, but we were there the other day and we intend on keeping as many of the vertical timber posts as we can and renewing them and using them.
For the portico?
Yeah.
That was one of my notes, actually.
Yeah,
I think that's a great
was so
idea.
excited when
Good,
you said
Yeah,
that.
that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Good.
so the horizontals will go up, so they're just like off together, kind of, so the horizontals aren't any good, but all the verticals will be.
Super.
That's also, actually, I printed out a picture from the inside and
Yeah,
that was one of the things I was gonna talk about. So
Oh,
that's a
very
great
cool.
idea.
yeah, and I would love to, like, we just on the two on the front for sure,
Uh-huh.
but I would love to see if we could do two, even if they're cut in half in the lobby for whatever the interior design wants to do with that, just have those, and, just say, yeah.
That's great. What size are they?
Oh, I can't tell.
They have to be at least 12 inches square.
Wow.
We also found a pair of metal, I guess they're almost like metal barn doors, just in my pictures, but maybe we could use these and I was like, oh my god. They're huge, you know, so that we're not
They could
sure.
even be part of an outdoor. So anyway, we'll get there when we get there. This is exciting now. Colleagues, let's see what we can accomplish before Jesse and Ryan come. So updates and discussions. Preservation District, I have not had a chance to meet with Tim, but what I really want to do is find out where we are legally with new downtown district and also what we need to do to kind of publicize it in a way that's fair to the community, because I don't think people know just because there's something in the paper. Village website's not the same thing as really good outreach. I've been super busy for like the last month, but I will try really hard to get on that in the next 2 weeks and just have a sit down with the mayor and have answers for you. On the map, Shane, I think that you've given me a totally updated version.
Yeah, yep.
Do you mind resending that? Because
yeah, sure.
it's probably somewhere in my inbox, or do you have it?
I think we should copy both of them.
I can resend it when I get
If you
back
don't-
to in case.
It might be a little easier for you to
Okay.
resend than for me to follow. And then I haven't done a damn thing about the draft waiver. I'm so sorry, but it's just one of those things that has had to wait.
Well, actually, about publicizing, I know that the tree commission gets the back of a water bill every so often that is sent to everybody in the village. Perhaps we might take advantage of that being mailed.
That's a really good idea. Do they just print something on the back?
I actually am not sure whether they tuck in. I mean, I think they may tuck in an extra sheet of paper, which would be a cost for the commission to print, but
It saves on the post.
so it saves on postage and it goes to, I mean, every homeowner, everyone who's got a water meter associated with their name. I mean, it would be a good way, I think, that we would leverage an already going out piece of mail without adding to the cost of the stamp.
Yeah, which is significant. That's a really good idea. Okay, I'll ask them about that.
He's the person who could make that happen.
Yes. And it would be interested in saving money because ultimately it's our budget, but it's the village budget ultimately. Window replacement. Can we put this on in a conspicuous place for the November agenda?
Sure,
Just to
yeah.
kind of workshop that.
Yeah, like what are the next steps on that? Because I'm more or less finished with I've made some updates to the document essentially, but I feel like it's in a good place. So I'm not, just in terms of the mechanics of how this all works, I'm not really sure. So
I mean, this is sort of new territory for us. I would say maybe send it to us in its current state. I had some ideas about, which I didn't act on at all, but about kind of trying to get a little bit of a uniform look and feel to these if we're going to do future ones on landscaping or lighting or whatever it might be. And I can, maybe once I see that again, I can try to put some of those ideas in as a suggestion. And then let's workshop it together next month to see if we're saying what we want to say. And that'd be great.
If you want to give me your thoughts on like a typical title block or something, I could take a stab at that too.
Okay. Yeah. I guess I need to see it again. I did read it, but it seems like a million years ago. And worked on. So a couple of things, should be freeing up and moving ahead for next month. Steve, what's the update from Inno?
That what I hoped would be move things freed up for next month. I spent a couple hours on the application for the landmark designation form today. I do have to get this to Essie Lewis so that she can add in the legal, the actual building's current owner, who whether that's the Dr. Margaret Wade Lewis Black History Research and Cultural Center, or whose name exactly. And then I will bang out some of the aspects of individual property and what makes it suitable for historic designation. And then I need for the application some photographs and some other bit of additional information.
Does it call for a site?
I don't. It just said map required and photographs required. It doesn't specifically at this point seem to say that the site plan is required.
Okay. Great. So Val, let's make that a November agenda item as well. That'll be great. I was asking about site plan because maybe Dave Toder has done some of that work and we can, through SE work out. I have Dave's email as well, so I can work with that. Consultations. Let's see, 65 Huguenot Street. I think we're done with that, aren't we? Oh, right. Yeah, it's going to ZBA.
We have to go back to the ZBA again next month. Because for some reason there was a question about that old fence, and whether that required variance. So
Ooh,
we're going to go back for it. I understand modern and not. So the application should go through. And I think that we put hearing again.
Speaking of public hearings, next month, or no, tomorrow, the 137 North Chestnut Street project trail link is going before the planning board, and I just wanted to share with you what was given to Camilla and me on Saturday. It to both of us looked pretty good right from the start. There's some things that I think we can help them with, but it's very zero place like, and then it's going to be tight against the street, parking behind. It's a sort of L-shaped building. Actually, Shane on the back is the site plan. So retail on the first floor facing Main Street, residential second and third story, and the L. And it just, it made it really concrete for me how rapidly that section of Chestnut is going to be changed.
Yeah.
It's going to become just an all 3-story.
Probably power to the north is suitable for the foundation.
Yeah, it's good. It's just gonna. So we've got a significant hand in making sure this is as good as it can be. So we sort of shook hands on the expectation that the planning board is going to refer them to us for next month, and I even told them what the date was and asked them to get me these in digital form, plus they had a letter from SHPA. He referred to a letter from SHPA stating that there was no consequence for the name of that. It is, okay, so he doesn't have to redo that, but I thought that would be useful for us. And again, I think the fact that we're working with Scott Arnold is a really good sign, because he gets what we're trying to do. But,
So he pointed out several times that they want help on this new building. Like they did that in the floor.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
They seem to be a bit more sensitive.
Okay. And then just very quickly, so 184 Main Street is the hotel project. That is, we're waiting whatever the ZPA is going to do.
Actually, the ZBA is waiting for their last site. You might see that on there, because in November as well.
Okay.
There's also a revised site from the
Yeah, I think we were sort of warned on that one that it was going to be a while. So that's the report on these PB and ZBA consultations and pending items. Camilla, can you report? We can pretty much stop anytime you're ready. So, okay, very good. Camilla, how about a brief report on the sign?
It's very good because we completed the sign installation of the paint. And back on vacation, he helped us install it.
It's really good.
It's very nice.
It looks very nice. It really does. I wanted to know if everybody would be comfortable if we wrote up a press release and the photo and just send it up to Hudson Valley One. Sure.
Yeah.
I was thinking of you,
No,
actually. I mean, you did all the work. No, we're not gonna do that.
Or maybe just.
Possibly. I mean, if you're really
Yeah, I don't.
squeamish about that, maybe. Do you have a photo of just sort of the artist's hand? Okay.
We can just choose one.
All right, we'll just do a very brief press release, but you did a nice deal. Oh, yeah, good. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So everybody's okay if we do that? Stephen, anything from your way on Huguenots?
Huguenot Street's been pretty quiet. I'm great representative. The biggest work being done right now. I don't know, Val, on your end of the street, but we're pretty quiet. There wasn't a lot of tree work done across the street from Karen Cathers. There was a woman, she often had the grass up high. in her yard.
The little blue house.
The little blue house. Two brothers came and just took a lot of stuff down. We walked up to make sure, as Christina's on the tree commission, that they weren't cutting down stuff too close to the road. But they just, that house, I'm not sure if the person's still there, but it was certainly looked like an awful lot of work was going on. Other than that, the street is quiet.
Nothing bad. Great. Thanks. Budget report is in the agenda here. We are doing fine. I wanted to ask if anyone would object. Val's computer isn't quite old enough for what the village would consider replacement cycle. So I thought, given that it's not working perfectly for this new.
Well, this is actually on last time. I mean, this is working fine. It's the camera that we're having trouble with tonight and not YouTube is not showing anything for us.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So this audience and have this be shared. laptop for.
Does that solve the problem apart from the camera issue?
In the night, a laptop, but I'm not going to use it like this. I can do it. I have recommendations. I just want to go.
Okay.
But for now, I think we're good.
Okay, that's good news. I didn't actually know,
Yeah, this was a decent.
like 6:45.
Well, if it becomes something that's not a suitable thing, then I would certainly support.
Yeah,
Additional funding funds for that.
I suspect the owl is really expensive.
But the whole village could use it all the members.
It's true.
Even if we take some money for each.
Budget. You know, that's a good idea. Val, can you make a note that there's a device called the Owl, and it's like a, I don't know, to me it looks like a water boiler without the handle. And it's got a 360 camera on it, but it takes individual images. Somehow it knows that there's 6 people at the table, and so the person watching the meeting sees 6 faces, and then the person talking is larger. And it's called an Owl. And actually, I could ask Christy Lee at the library how much it costs. I suspect it's ferociously expensive. But it's kind of a cool technology that might solve a lot of these meeting issues. Number 7, really quickly, I don't think I have anything to add apart from encouraging anybody who has the time to do it to tap into the various trainings or sessions, including the Fast Forward 22, which is going on. Why don't we cut off there, because Partners in Preservation is definitely a longer discussion. And some of the other things, we're eventually going to get to executive session. Yeah, okay. I'd be really surprised if they'll just. Could you shoot that over to them and maybe talk to them? Hi, good evening.
Good evening to you. Thank you for being here tonight.
Well, likewise. Thank you for
Yes.
coming out on rainy.
Yeah.
Welcome back. I should
Thank
say.
you. Thank you.
A little bit better location.
Yeah.
This one.
I think this is where we met with the planning.
Yes,
Board.
yeah,
First time
it's
around,
been-
yeah.
You know, the whole thing is that we did have meeting rooms in Village Hall, but they are connected by a handicap access elevator that
It's not
is
working.
never going to be replaced.
Oh, yeah, I think that's what you mentioned.
So,
But this has got, like, all the ADA is all,
yeah,
and
as
yeah, with the ramp and everything, that's great.
long as we can keep using it, it seems like a pretty good solution.
So I know we have enough on the screen, but I just figured.
I'm gonna
I'd stay there.
probably
Open them all up here,
I think so.
elevations and all.
Probably don't really need. I'll just take a couple. So what I'll do is I'll just go over, how I address, or try to address everybody's comments. And usually when somebody, says something to me, I can interpret what they're trying to say right off the bat, and I just having a little bit of trouble with it.
Yeah.
And but then afterwards, I realized, I think what you were thinking with, we were talking about the additive effect, like what's there now, which is more obvious, bigger cubes, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And-
No, I noticed.
Yeah, and then this was more subtle.
Cool.
Sure. So what I did is, and some of it was out of necessity anyway. I knew we were gonna have to do it anyway, but on the north side, on the end, I have a entry door to the stairwell that had a roof at it. And so what I did was is I wrapped the roof around the north end of the building because I know we're gonna end up putting HVAC equipment out there. So I did that and then showed the screening, and that's sort of like another way to help break up that end of the building at least.
So, sorry, and just interject. So is there no longer HVAC equipment up
No,
here?
there's gonna be some
There's
up there
still
too.
gonna
I
be-
have a feeling I just probably didn't have enough space for all of it. And so then when I was looking at it, I thought, I know we were talking about gable roofs and things like that. And then I saw the photo of the old, like, what was it, like an old lumber yard or something, where Water Street Market is. And I laughed because that's kind of what the roofs are in general. But one of the other reasons I didn't want to do a whole lot with the gable was I realized that that's my front entrance, and I want that to be sort of that special. And
Yeah.
so in the end, I thought, oh, wow, that's kind of the way I wanted to leave it that way. So that's why around the north end, I did the hip roof that went around. And the other thing that we did is we changed the siding to make it look like what it's gonna look like, the bulk of its life.
Right, when it goes from natural to weather, because we don't have any intention of sealing it. Because why use the material, like, it's cedar, you know, right? So
Yeah.
That looks
you
great
just let it
too.
weather.
Originally, I thought it was a little bit like a shiny penny, and I was it's not gonna be shiny for that long, so we're going to show you a little bit more about what it would look like down the road. I don't actually think we're gonna have to go for a variance. We're gonna try very hard to do a floor structure that is concrete inside, noise, and it helps save space. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
the hope that,
Between floors.
yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully that'll get us.
Hopefully that'll get us where we.
Now that's one I've never heard. What does it typically save you if you go with a concrete?
Well, typically at a hotel, on a smaller one, a lot of times people complain about noise. But if you go to a chain hotel or whatever, somebody drops something on the floor above you, you never hear it, because they're all concrete. So it's just something different. We don't normally, like, even when they did the Hampton Inn, it was all wood. I can't even imagine how noisy that hotel is. But in this case, the idea, higher end hotel, we want to make sure that it's quiet. So it actually buys us numerous benefits.
And it shrinks the
Right, instead
mass.
of using like a floor truss, like
Right.
the ones that look like W's. Because we know the county will have us do all electric anyway, so we won't really have much in the way of ductwork, so.
But I think it, to kind of help to answer your question, I think it's about a foot, between, like, so what we had to do at Woodstock Way with our sound engineers, we did 3 layers of plywood on top of a floor joist that was about 11 7/8. So it was 11 7/8 plus another 2 1/4 inches.
Yeah.
And then a sound deadening layer, and then an engineered floor, so that, it was like another inch or so, so 3 1/4 plus 11 7/8, it's getting up there to what, 13.5 inches, as opposed, not to mention double 5/8 sheetrock below with a hat channel and the sound isolation clip. That actually, that was probably another 4 inches, maybe 4.5 inches from there. So pretty thick floor assembly as compared to, this could be a poured concrete deck in like a echo span system type of construction that we're still investigating.
Mhm.
But we have experts that are actually involved with us on this project that actually put up concrete structures. So they're going to figure the best way for us to go, and then also still be able to maintain the sound attenuation level that we're looking for, so that people don't get disrupted. But I'd say it's probably closer to 10, 11 inches as opposed to 16. So
Yeah, so it's gonna save you 8 inches.
something like that.
And then the other thing I did was we talked about, on the front elevation, there were a couple small gable sort of accents, and then I added another larger one. And I don't even really know if it's necessary. I did it, but I don't know. I didn't find that it really it didn't wow me. Put it that way. But I left it on there anyway, just so you guys could see it. And the other thing that does is it kind of messes up the solar panels in that location. So I guess it's sort of like a priority, which is a priority kind of thing.
For sure.
So,
I would say my priority would probably be the solar panel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure.
Absolutely. For our priorities.
Thanks for
Our
Thanks for-
priority. Sorry, my bad.
and then we were talking about the timbers, the vertical posts that are there right now. And we're hoping to use at least 2 of them for, you know, it's not that high, I could probably do it with 1, you know, and to be able to utilize that. Maybe use it, you know, maybe another one we can use for accents or something like that in the lobby. Like I mentioned before, it would be up to the interior designer. If there's a way that we can incorporate it inside, but it might be kind of cool.
There are some timbers worth salvaging.
Yeah, no, actually, I put out a photo. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So, and then I know we were talking a little bit about, it came up how we're gonna address the building with the trail, and so Jesse was kind of looking at that.
Yeah, in terms of the trail, we're now kicking around the idea, there is an access point at the south end of the building that we're considering
Where
keeping.
everybody walks.
The only drawback to that is that there's no real sidewalk on the other side of the street or any street in
Yeah,
that
and it
particular
floats there too a lot.
area, so, in honoring what was there and what people used and basically honoring the land, which is part of what we strive to do, is leaving that pathway so people can kind of cut into the rail trail without having to go all the way up and around,
Yeah,
right?
which we actually witnessed Saturday when we went, we did another site visit.
Okay,
And we just literally saw people walking their dogs up that little path.
right.
Cutting.
Right. So there's that. And then, you know, we've now added a landscape architect to our team, Katie Whitell. She was instrumental in the Meadowlands planning project. I don't know what you know about that, but it's a pretty extensive project that she was, you know, on the design and site plan team for, and it's a special place. I mean, I think, you know, there's so many people that visit it now. I haven't been there. I have to go check it out. It's probably, we go back a long way. We actually grew up in the same town, Ryan and I, but she also was a mentor to me when I first kind of started out in business. So now she's, you know, she's part of the team. It's full circle for us. So yeah, so she's talking about interpretive signage, which I think is great. We're talking about restoring a section of the tracks, okay, because the tracks are, you know, now the railroad ties underneath them are deteriorated to the point where it's, you know, they really should just be reset, and, you know, where we can show the railhead and then reset them in such a way that we can put an interpretive sign that really kind of explains the history of what that building was at one point. So, you know, as you know, that's part of it. And then the second thing that we, which, you know, if you go out on the trail, because I was out on the trail the other day on the River to Ridge Trail, and I saw all that interpretive signage out there. Wow, this is great. Well, if there's a template for that, we would certainly like to, you know, learn more about it and kind of work with whoever, you know, did some of that interpretive signage, because it's very detailed and really kind of gives you a sense of the history on that land, which I think would be, you know, something we would want to do as well by the tracks that are still in existence there.
And you talked to Christy?
Christy from the yes, the Wallkill Valley Land Trust. Yeah, it's a
Yeah, I was gonna
mouthful.
say
Yeah,
that.
super sweet. You know, we spoke to her, and she was very helpful, and we sent her our plans, and we're going to obviously keep her posted along the way of what we're doing. She had also said that she put our plans and what we were looking to try to do in front of their attorney that handles all of the easement work. Because they're the ones that handle the easements on all of the rail trail. We also spoke to the mayor in brief about, because I'm understand that the township owns that land. And, he had made a great suggestion, I thought, to look at what you guys did with Zero Place. Do you know what, okay, so you know the project, so Zero Place and what, and how they're, to use it as kind of a baseline. And so that same day I went over there, I took some pictures and, shared them with our landscape architect. And, I think ours is going to be a little bit different in the sense that,
Like lower down in relation to the trail, right? And they're a little higher up, I think, right?
there's a little bit of a
There-
retaining wall there that and then there's, there's almost like I'd say a catch basin for water that
Yeah.
separates them from the trail. I don't think it's going to be like that for us. I think
Yeah.
it's going to be more landscape, hardscape. When I say hardscape, I mean stacked stone, retaining walls, what we're talking about, downward light, no skylight, I feel like they have a lot of, and I don't know what the process they went through there, but there's a lot of high lights on that property. They face down, which is great. So it lights up the whole area. Obviously an MEP, mechanical and plumbing and electrical engineer is going to have to help us with that. But, lighting up the whole area, that's not what we're looking to try to accomplish. I think it's going to be more pointed mood lighting more so, but, safety light too, like make sure everybody's, has enough, what do they call it? Candles on the outside?
So candles.
Put candles on the outside that they can see in front of them and they're not tripping over themselves. Also, the path, which you don't see here right now, wish I had a site plan. New site plan. I can get you one.
Or what Katie sent you?
Yeah,
Tell you
she's,
anything?
yeah, it's gonna be, well, can I get Wi-Fi here or is it?
It's an open library network, you can get no password.
There's still, our engineer's still working toward, finishing up this, plan. But, the path, originally we were considering a stairwell that led from the patio that, was at grade on the first floor of the hotel up to the rail trail. I think we spoke about this at one point. It was going to be between, if we were going to decide to put a car on the track, which I also investigated, and the actual trail, there was going to be a path, but there was also going to be stairs. But I think what we're going to just do now is just make it a path, because that accomplishes our then it's ADA compliant, which is great, because so is the rail trail. So, somebody with a disability can use it. Yeah, so that's where we're going with this. See if I have it here. Just put it in the phone.
I was going to ask you, can you move that dimension offhand?
On the
Or roughly.
elevation, from the top of the roof to the,
Top of the roof down to the beginning of the apron.
Might be this
Yeah.
one here. Do you want me to?
Oh, yeah, that's gonna tell.
Oh, yeah.
uh,
Dimensions here.
Looks like about.
to the top of the parapet, is that what you wanted?
Yeah,
24.
okay. Oh, okay, I see. So there is gonna be a band. I was just wondering if you could ever get boards that long, but it looks to me like you've got
Yeah,
to.
that's why I put the band. It's mostly a reminder for myself.
Okay,
Cover the seams, right?
Yeah.
You want to just pass this around if you want? It's
Sure.
fine with that. So I can, that's okay. No worries. Let me just point it out. You can see that pathway there.
Yeah.
Patio is in the gray, and the pathway that leads up here. Currently, the tracks are in a very precarious spot. So, we had discussed moving them. and moving them kind of out in the open so that, you know, it wasn't like, some people weren't like, oh, I don't want to walk over there and see that. This would be basically, right here is where the pathway will lead up with the stairs from the street. So people just walk over here and see it. This is all, actually, is that open there? Yeah, that's open on the other side of the tracks there. I mean, on the other side of the path. The path leads up to, this is the rail trail, and then we straightened them out.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Right.
It was on the lot line.
And then, so, you know, our landscape architect also had the idea that, you know, and maybe what we can do is shorten the actual tracks, because I want to say they're like 90 feet right now. And we would shorten them to, I think, 60, but then repurpose whatever we use into the hotel as some, you know, we haven't gotten that far yet, but, you know, our landscape architect and her husband were like, well, why don't we make some signage out of it? And we're like, oh, well, that's an idea, you know? So we can have some fun with, you know, how we, you know, plan to do that. What rail with the bar?
What rail?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
can do that, yeah. But we want to light that up. Downward light, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I think that's good.
I mean, you guys can.
And the pathway is a great solution, because, you know, you would have to have some AD something anyways.
Right, and then the pathway, yeah, yeah. So that way it gives, you know, in the past, or people that are, well, I like to call them the rail trail travelers, is that they can walk by and would be just right there, similar to how it is on the River to Ridge.
With some signage.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But, and then, you know, we can work on that together, and, you know, and all put our heads together on what that, you know, I should say.
Yeah, in fact, I may have a source who can help us with exactly why they were there. This is good.
On the other side of the rail trail, there's a, what looked like part of an old bridge. Was there a bridge that used to be there? Like the abutment, like there's stone?
I remember steps more than a bridge.
On the other side of like Plains Road, once you go towards.
No, right on the other side of the rail trail.
Right on the side.
Yeah, right.
It looks like an embankment that was there that used to be where a bridge went across.
Yes, no, that's definitely the case.
That would be good.
The
a
current
good
bridge is
story to
actually
tell
the
too.
third that I know. Yeah, that would be really good to tell.
Right.
Because it seems like you just walk through there right now. Nobody knows. They're just gonna.
Nobody has any
Cool stuff,
idea
you
what
know?
that is. You know, you look at it and you're like, what is that? You know, it's a super steep decline.
When you said bridge, I wasn't thinking that far out. I thought you meant to get to that point.
Yeah.
So there's steps down to that and then the abutment.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, it's kind of right there, but
Which interestingly is the bridge that's pictured in this brochure, I think. Right, and the current one is further up. That's actually from a postcard collection.
Really?
Maybe we could,
Can I see that?
yeah, of course. I think so. Val, do you have any recollection of that post? I'm pretty sure that's based on one of
Yeah,
Dennis's
Well,
postcards.
that could may have been the house or.
I think we can find that out. But that might be useful to your signage process.
Yeah.
Keep it.
Oh, thank you.
Um,
yeah, I've seen somebody post postcards on the New Paltz Facebook.
Yeah, they're probably derived. There's a collection on the SUNY campus. One of the library staff assembled about 500.
Actually, I've recently been in I think her name is it Anne? That's the curator over at the museum at the SUNY?
Museum would be different from library.
Oh, okay. I thought you were
Trying to think of who Ian might be.
But I was just in touch with somebody there, so I have every intention of, you know, linking up and. I don't know, yeah.
Okay.
I spoke to her
She's at the
last week.
museum, yeah. So, I
They
mean,
just
there
had
might
an
be
event,
something.
I think, for a gala or up at Mountain House.
Yeah, there was something. But we can, you know, potentially help with that. There may be something that's useful.
I think we just thought it was to have it was like a little bit more subtle to have this, all the signage and sort of learn about the history versus having a train car there, because it was
Yeah.
getting kind of like,
Something you gotta maintain too, I guess.
yeah, it was big.
Yeah.
I went to the trolley museum and met up with, it's escaping me for a second, but I'm super knowledgeable about the trains and like, is like entrenched in trains, just like everything train. And he was there working by himself on the equipment. And, you know, we were talking about one of the trolley cars that's for sale in his lot right now, that they're trying to unload because otherwise it's just gonna fall apart and disintegrate. And so he was saying, he's like, I can let this go for, you know, I spoke to the board members for $5,000, but it's gonna cost you about $15,000 to move it, you know, this is like super heavy, right? And you need a special truck and permits and all that stuff, not to mention the fact that if we needed cranes to crane it up here, so. And then it needed to be completely restored, so I took pictures of all of what he had there, and it was an interesting.
And we don't think that sort of trolley car was ever on those.
Well, so
roads.
then, and there's not authenticity to it, so there's that particular railroad, I don't think was ever traveled by a passenger car, so it wouldn't make much sense to put a passenger car out there, so.
Although there was a trolley down Main Street, right, at one point.
Yes,
But
Yeah.
and
that's no.
and there
connection
was a
with your site.
passenger line, probably up in, I mean, I guess into the 50s maybe, and then, you know where we know that, from landmarking La Stazione, we did research around when the line became defunct, when it became freight only, but it was a passenger line.
It was a passenger line. Oh, look at
Until I
that.
want to say like the 50s.
Okay, interesting.
We-
Bringing tourists to the area.
Okay,
Well, and it went only to Wallkill, I think. It wasn't a long line. I think it was like Kingston to Wallkill, and it moved produce and other things, and probably Rosendale cement, things like that. So we might be able to help you on that. And I think Bill Rhodes also knows a lot. I had a question. So in this district, you're not bound by lot coverage at all.
I think it's an 80%. if I wasn't-
I
if I'm
forget-
not
yeah, I
mistaken.
forget the
It's a
percentage.
very generous.
Yeah,
it's
but like the
unusual.
setbacks are zero.
Yeah. I mean,
But I think this
quite a-
building in and of itself is like 13,500 now. We scale it down to. what,
Yeah, and our
7,500,
footprint is only about 75 or 7,600. So
as opposed to almost the entire property.
Yeah. Great. And you're pretty sure that you're not gonna go after a variance? Because that's one of the things we left hanging last month.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather not, so I'd rather try to figure it out, see if we could do it structurally. And then I guess if not, at that point, and it would only be inches, that's the weird part. You know, I'm like, do I just lower the roofs a little bit, or, you know, we go for the variance, so we're gonna try not to do the variance. We'd be one of the few projects in town that don't need a variance.
Definitely. Makes things a little faster and more efficient. Shane, did you have?
Yes, I had a few comments. So first of all, I just took some time to really consolidate my thoughts, and I actually, you know, I was putting myself in your position, Kim, you know, if I were to try and run some of the ideas we had talked about, like how might it actually happen in terms of architectural moves with your design. So I broke it down to actually really three different things. The first thing we talked about was the portico, which I think is great, because I feel like the portico maybe could be, it has the same eave details as the rest of the building, and maybe it could be like a little more special. And I think you had alluded to that too. Maybe if it's like a different material, or if you could, you know, repurpose some of the timber framing that's there and to make this portico, that could be really cool. You know,
It would be, Shane, it would be reminiscent of what we did at Woodstock Way, where we reuse trees, and the tree is the monopost that holds up our terraces on the second floor. So we would do that with the posts.
okay, for
here.
these two right here.
Right.
Okay, I mean, I think, and you know, anyway, you know, I guess anywhere where it has, some its own unique details might be cool. I think 'cause right now it's like the eave is kind of blending in, but the rest of the building is just kind of flat. I mean, it's a different color here, but I feel like it could be something like a little more special, but maybe not, just something to consider. I like your point about having the, the columns or. Anyway, so that was that. And then, we had talked about like the additive nature of the building, and I couldn't really quite put my finger on like why it didn't read like that. And I feel like it's because of this continuous eave along the top. It's all at the same level. And at the building as it is now, and again, not that we're, that you have to replicate what's there, but you could tell the additive nature of the building because like the eaves, like where there was an addition, the eave tucks in below the existing eave, even though it's all the same details. And with the roof lines you have here, I feel like with some really minor changes, you could have the eaves, maybe happen at different levels and they could break up this roof line.
Yeah, so they do this way, just
Yeah.
not this way, and I did that on purpose because of gutter systems.
So that was actually my next question, I mean, you don't typically show this in a rendering, but there's no leaders or gutters being shown, right? Which is
Yeah,
fine.
no,
I mean,
I
that's,
don't usually-
they won't expect that, but I guess that was one of my questions. It's like, what are your plans? Because if you have the valleys in the corners where you're gonna have a down leader, it might actually help you to have the eaves at different levels to like, pitch into those.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's it's hard to explain, but I think that for me anyway, it was just the idea of and they do move around a little bit, mostly on the backside.
Yeah, and well, actually, on the
because
backside,
of-
it's much more interesting. It looks really, not that it's not interesting here, but
Right.
it's more expressive in that way.
Right, and
It's
that's
all
just
on
because
different
it really does jog along the
Yeah.
back.
Years to get picked up in such a way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in the front, and the other thing I did, which I forgot, is down at this end,
levels.
I did add another roof, because my intent there was to almost make it look like it was an enclosed walkway that was connecting these two blocks at either end of it. And so I was like, oh, I'll add a little roof, and because we were talking about lighting, I was like, oh, we put lighting underneath the roof, but then we're like, well, let's leave it close to the ground, but it's an option if you need it. And so that also helps to break up down at this end also. But really it's so the gutters will come down, or the gutters will come down, and then the idea would be that they break this way. I mean, I could look at some of it too. It had to do with the height. But
Also, the living room is gonna hold a lot of that
Yeah.
water, as opposed to just kind of dumping it on.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you're gonna have a ton of runoff. But we do have, if you can see here, this is storm drain that also connects in. So I don't know, we're still working through that part of the
Yeah.
site plan, but sure enough, I mean, I don't see why.
Yeah, no,
a leader
that-
pipe
that-
couldn't connect
That
up.
all, it was more so just like, with this, since the face of this eave is all at the same height, like what does that mean for the gutters? Like, because the gutters have to pitch a little bit, like this is a really long stretch where I imagine you're not going to want a down leader and, coming through this roof. So in a way, like, breaking up the levels of these eaves might help you in that sense, like where the downspouts might end. That's what I was going to do. Like, for example, like this roof, was this roof here before in the previous design? Or
no, that's the one I just mentioned that just added.
yeah, because I like this a lot because it dies on these two, these two wall returns here.
Yeah, give me a chance. to
And
put that there.
and if this, I mean, I'd actually I imported the elevations they had. And again, I was just trying to like see how, we talk about these design changes, like how could it actually be executed? And not that you have to do this, but like I stretched down this eave between this volume to die into these side returns here and here. And it's kind of hard to see here. Even just that little move, just bringing down this eave into like a different level, 6 inches lower. So it tucks in, or 12 inches. So it tucks in. I think it helps like separate this volume, because it's like visually, this feels like its own kind of like, like volume of the building, which I like. And I feel like if you just look at, I mean, again, I don't know how strongly we're going to go back to like the additive design, But like this building is kind of generally reading as like maybe 4 different volumes, right? You have like this area here, this main area, and then this area here. And I feel like my problem with the eave now, considering that it's all on the same level, like maybe if parts of the eave just tuck in below or it just breaks up a little bit, then it might help just express the different kind of volumes, and it might make the building feel more additive going from one direction to the next. And I feel like it might be easy to do, or it doesn't necessarily change the whole roof, because I think we're past talking about that. Like that's not necessarily gonna happen. So how do we just break up the roof a little bit so it ties in to the different volumes of the building below? So I mean, just something to consider, like, just maybe breaking up the eave lines. That's it. Just having like them, maybe the eave here tucks in, whatever. There's a wall jog that tucks into an adjacent eave below or above it. So
Well, and even down there at that end, this is a hip roof, so maybe I could just adjust it a little bit. So
Yeah.
that even if it's just this one section yeah, because I was looking at it as 1, 2, 3, 4-ish.
and then
This started, and I did this on purpose because it was starting to get really messy.
yeah.
And I was almost taking the additive effect a little too far.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't want to do it just for the sake of doing it. And
For
then
sure.
the other stairwell with the lower roof. But over here, I might be able to, I mean, like I said, I did it on purpose. Because I've done other ones where the roof is broken up enough that the contractors are like, where am I gonna put my
Yeah.
gutters?
And that's
my
also
duct?"
like, you don't want to make the framing like really complicated.
Yeah,
Well, like for example, like in this moment right here, you're just talking about like these are 2 different roof types and 2 different roof materials, yet they share the same eave and color and level. And even though these are 2 different roofs essentially, so like I feel like this is a natural place to have maybe a different eave condition, and it'll like make this part of the building look a little more special or separate. Or anyway, just something to consider, because I guess I feel like, and first of all, I had to say, and I know I've talked a lot about this building in general, I like the design, I really do. I think it's in a good direction. I just feel like it's about kind of consolidating the different volumes and just, making it seem like either additive or whatever, like, because the other thing too, aside from the eaves, is there's 4 different types of trim scenarios going on. Like these parts of the building are really similar. Like this is tall vertical siding, as is this. Actually, maybe it's easier in this elevation.
so the light color, the cedar,
Uh-huh.
is a vertical V groove,
Mhm.
tongue and groove. And then the black, we have a combination
Uh-huh.
of clapboard and some board and batten where I put that new roof in.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of pulled that through where the new roof is and then over to the right a little bit more. And again, to try to assist and like get out.
No, for sure. And-
Visually.
Yeah.
And the trim might just look different because it's a rendering.
Well, I was just looking at this, like this elevation here, and I think that the trim does a good job of breaking up the different parts of the building. I just feel like it could be a little consolidated, like here and here, like you have this horizontal board here. Is that not continuing at this level because you wanted to kind of break up like more so in the midpoint? Like,
Right,
up here?
yeah,
Okay, so
because that's
that
a
makes
different
sense.
section, So.
So then I guess I had the same question here, like this could be, seems like this could be treated like this part of the building because it has a similar roof, even though it's at a different level. Or maybe it is, because like this is the same horizontal siding that's happening here. That's what's going
Well,
on?
down there, it's screening, so it's the
Okay.
horizontal slats.
So this isn't, yeah.
Right,
All
so
right,
the
so that's
idea
better.
again could be, oh, well, we used what we had, we
Yeah.
had that part
I
on,
see.
so it was a little bit,
Yeah, so I mean,
but
okay.
I
Yeah,
think-
well, I guess I was talking like this siding right here, because that's not screening, right? That's siding that's on the wall.
right, yep,
And so that is more or less the same as this right here. So, all right, so then in a certain sense, these 2 kind of bookends of the building are treated the same. So that's, I mean, I don't know what you want to do with all my comments, but that's that. And then the last thing is that I feel like this overhang, like this basically volume that's cut out, I'm not crazy how it kind of turns the corner here. And I don't know if it's the wrong thing to do, But I just feel like when you chop out this volume from this, let's say, section of the building, I feel like it kind of undermines this part of the building a little bit. Like if this cutout were to stop here where that wall return is, then I feel like you get like a cleaner breakup of the volumes of the building, and then like you get a little bit less of that stone veneer. And I feel like it actually makes more sense if that stone veneer is kind of just the base of just this section of the building between these two wall returns.
Oh, so you want it to line up with that corner?
I mean, I feel like it might be worth looking into because I feel like it will make the stone veneer make more sense, and then it'll kind of like have more consistency between the different volumes. That's it. And I was actually looking in plan, like how it lays out in plan. Like if you just like shift on the first floor plan, you see how you have these groups of bathrooms together. Like you could just shift these bathrooms down so that that volume aligns, and like you get more space, and it might be easier to kind of bring the plumbing all in the same level. And I feel like it makes sense like architecturally too. It doesn't necessarily put you guys in a bad spot like in the floor plan, but more importantly, like visually, I feel like I just feel like this section, I like everything that's happening here with the roof and the trim. I feel like everything that's going on in this part of the building should kind of live in between these two returns, and then it'll kind of normalize the entire facade by just like assigning a trim scenario to each part of the building, instead of like these things kind of bleeding together with this. And that was really it. And I know like you guys might feel strongly like this is like a really interesting architectural move, and I'm not saying it's not, but
We did make an edit there, didn't we?
I took the
We
brackets
took it
out.
off the
yeah,
bracket.
and I think that looks great. I think that looks really good. I mean, it's looking more like, especially with that roof, which I think looks really great too. It's I don't know, it's just, the identity is coming kind of closer to, I guess, a series of buildings that may have been, assembled as opposed to, because, again, like this move just kind of ties together these volumes where they don't communicate anywhere else besides this turning the corner. That was really it for me.
Anybody?
I wanted to ask a follow-up. So Shane, your like third to last point was to bump out at this point rather than here.
Yeah, because I just feel like if I did a quick sketch here, but like if these are the different main volumes of the building, and they all have their own either specific trim
Yeah.
scenario, or like this is the volume where the portico is, you get this type of horizontal trim, and it looks great. This here, you have like, a mix between the, like the wider boards and the thinner boards, so that's horizontal and vertical. And then here, as it is now, like you get this really interesting roof. I think this looks really great, and I like how it's set back and it's tucked in. But then like this turning the corner just seems to kind of interrupt what's going on in this part of the building. However, that being said, let's say you make this move and we look at the drawings and the renderings, this still might end up being more interesting. And I'm not saying that filling this in is the way to go. I just feel like it's warranted looking at, considering, if we really want to talk about like the additive nature of the building, it's going to be like, kind of keeping these volumes consistent to each other as if they were like, happened in different phases.
Yeah, I gotta look at it because I don't want to really. Yeah, I have to look at it first.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, it's just because it's
Just an idea worth playing around with.
yeah.
I mean, I sort of perked up when you said it would simplify the plumbing, and that's not it's not a good enough reason to do it, but it would also gain you a
A little bit of space in that room.
space. Mhm.
Well, one thing I gotta point out, based on what you've been saying. Sometimes when you try to like what you're trying to say, like this building was created in this era, and then 15 years later, they did this, and then like we're trying to add on, like you're talking about. When it's new, it doesn't look like it was done that way. It looks like kind of like what the Residence Inn tried to do, and it looks off. It looks fake.
Well, I don't think we're trying to fool anyone that this building was actually built in a series of different ways. It's just as a concept, like that was I mean, that's what Kim, you had talked
Yeah,
about
the
yourself.
concept is
Kind of
the
homage.
way we went.
Yeah, I mean, that was discussed early on and, you know, we're never gonna get to this building and we want to expect you to look like it was built in 4 different phases, maybe 5 years apart. That doesn't make sense. But in terms of just like, you know, further discussions of the additive nature of the building, I guess it's still, you know, it's still working on it. And it's like, that's fine. I mean, you guys are really far along. It looks really great. These are just like little, I wanted to focus my comments on like little architectural changes that can maybe get you there instead of like, you know, thinking about the whole concept of design. Cause obviously we're not
I kind of
doing
like the direction it's going, and I think.
Yeah, no, I think it looked-
you brought some great ideas to
I-
the table, and
I agree.
Kim and her creativity is, you know, responded.
I mean, I'm just trying
Great.
I'm trying to think about like how, again, like the additive nature could actually be reflected in the details of the building without reinventing everything that's here now, because it looks great. And I was thinking just, you know, again, playing with like the eave heights a little bit, maybe like little tweaks to make it look like, to help break up these different volumes. And then like this, just take a look at this area. And then maybe, you know, the last thing was maybe like normalizing like, you know, having some kind of trim scenario that made sense within each volume, which I think you already do, actually.
And I think some of it too was with the additive nature, it wasn't necessarily supposed to be like historical literal, but it was
Yeah.
just a way, it's a conceptual way of breaking up the building, so it's.
For sure. No, and I think that you're most of the way there. I mean, I think that that's really far along, but maybe these little details might help hit that point, you know, a little further.
Yeah, I just have to look at it because I can't remember. I have to get on my computer and see where everything lines up. I'm not really worried about the plumbing part of it. I just want to make sure that when I start moving things around.
No, for sure. No, for sure. And I know that any
Floors.
little change affects everything. I mean, I'm well aware of that. So, anyway, so I was just feeling like if you just like recapture that volume that was cut out for this main part, then, you know, it might make this part be a little bit more interesting, because then everything that happens here is like, it's tucked between these two little wall returns instead of this kind of like arbitrary, you know, cut out turning the corner, which even though I think it's interesting, I think it undermines your concept about the additive nature of the building. If that's something that you're actually still considering.
Very cool.
Right. Shane, are you willing to share the printout?
Yeah, I mean, this was just,
Just because
yeah, it was,
just 'cause you
something I was
can-
just kind of messing around with. And I mean, Kim, again, like,
Yeah, I mean. I
it
can
was
let
just
you know.
like, yeah, I just filled it in here. And then with this eave, I just brought down just to try and like not have this really long continuous eave. You know, like I feel like in this is another area here where, I mean, I really like everything that's going on in this volume. I guess I'm just trying to like, you know, I feel like it would be more special if it just kind of happens in this area, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, you know, again, like this eave is turning the corner and as you mentioned, like it's kind of undulating in plan, but in elevation, like it's all at the same level. And it's connecting roof materials that are different and, you know, roof assemblies that are different. You know, it might be easier construction wise just to have the eaves be, you know, be
Yeah.
different
See,
anyway.
Look at this one too, because this one is at an angle, so you get to see how at least it comes back a little bit.
Yeah, no, for
Yeah,
sure. And
I mean, I
I
get
can
what you're
see that here
saying.
too. Because like, I guess I wish I brought photos of the existing building, again, not that it was like the most beautiful building in the world, but where the volumes of the building met, the eaves tucked in below each other because that was just, you know, that's just how it was when they added on to the building. So I feel like that might make the roof a little bit more interesting and it works with your concept. And I don't think it's gonna really change the way it looks at all. I mean, it's really subtle changes that might just, you know, just help break it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I guess you said that you are not really married to this gable roof here that you just added.
Yeah,
recently.
I was gonna like that, you guys.
Yes,
I mean,
because I was thinking about it. At first I said, oh, that's great. It will give a different dimension to this part of the facade. But then I thought that the pitch of the new addition and the existing portico are not exactly the same. So it kind of takes away from the portico and it would be cleaner
Okay.
without it. And then
I
the
agree.
portico would stand out more without.
for a couple of reasons, to take it out.
Yes, and then, and my other,
That means we get more solar panels?
Yes.
yeah,
Excellent.
And my question about the stone, what kind of stone are you proposing to use? Because it looks like it's just the.
We were thinking
small
the stacked
horizontal-
stone look, stacked stone, like you would,
Bluestone?
what's that?
Is it blue? Like,
Native, I mean, to the region, I think, but stacked stone where, you know, you see a stacked stone wall, like a dry laid stacked stone wall, that's what we were thinking. I mean, it's a little bit, it doesn't look,
It's like our wall.
yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly, like, yeah, exactly like our wall,
Yeah.
right? We have this massive retaining wall that was all dry laid, but what they did is they used a lot of stone from the property and then filled in with stone that they had brought in. But, you know, a lot of, pictures,
But it's real,
It's
it's real rock.
it's real rough.
Is that
Yeah,
your
it's
question
all
too?
done,
Was
Yeah,
it a
it's
veneer
because-
or is it real rock?
Right, because on, Main Street, there are some examples of the
Poultry
fake
stone.
stuff. And then the real stone, and you can really tell the
Yeah,
difference.
I think
Right.
on Main Street.
Real stone, but like a veneer of stone, not like a full, you know.
Not like structural
No,
stone.
like what are we doing? You know, we don't want to make places for snakes to hang out either, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they do make, there are companies that will take stone and cut it
Right.
too, so it's like thinner, but it's real.
Right.
I think we just hadn't gotten that far yet, but now we know that.
I mean, that's would be something I would encourage as well.
And it might be good that we shorten it because we'll get more
Well,
money.
that's right. You're gonna say.
Yeah, oh, no, without a doubt. I was thinking, you know, as part of this, what you're talking about shortening up. You know, this could be a great place for like an outdoor tool closet.
Yeah, well,
Be hidden,
right,
you
I
can't
think it's
see it.
right here.
Just a corner.
This
That was a
part.
pull up. You can take
It
it,
would
you can
come-
zoom in on it. That's what-
Right here, this part.
Yeah, see where that door is? It's this
Yeah.
door. And so I think it's the section right here.
Right, so this
But then it
door
wraps.
maybe,
Oh, yeah, that's.
this
So
door
maybe it-
maybe comes straight out, but then this would be a tool closet.
Well, maybe it comes out like this.
It's beautiful.
And then.
You know, that's the point. I mean, are you gonna have a snow blower? Where does that go?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, we got a lot, we definitely have some storage,
Down
And
at the
this area.
north,
Yeah.
oh, at that,
Yeah.
yeah.
with access.
which
to-
actually, yeah, with access to
Okay.
right to the outside. then,
I had one question, which was signage. Are you thinking yet about signage?
Oh, yeah.
So here or not?
Yeah, so, there's a couple of ideas that we've been kicking around. One is, you know, let me show you this. It'll be easier to see the,
Yeah, I forgot to send you this requirements, but I think we're gonna talk about it. We have a meeting with the engineer tomorrow. And the landscaper.
so this new line is representative of the property. Yeah, I mean, you can't, actually, I wish I had the, I don't, let's see if I can find the plan, but basically, the property it encompasses the drainage ditch and then goes all the way up to where the opening of the opening of the trail is. So we have that area, and what we're waiting on right now is for the leaves to fall off the trees, so we can really start to kind of plan it out with our landscape architect. But part of that would be a signage concept that when somebody came over that crest, they could see, you know, hotel, you know, hidden or driveway like on your right. Whatever the sign parameters are, obviously we're gonna stay within them as best as possible. What are the sign parameters? And I know we actually already have a sign sheet that we're already loosely, you know, working through, but not the actual signage of the hotel.
I don't off the top of my head remember, but it's, you know, X number of square feet and two-sided, I think contributes to that total, but it's.
Really?
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh.
Because the majority of,
The bigger the sign on one side, on the side of the building, the better. I'm just kidding.
I mean, weirdly, I think, yes, but it's kind of with Main Street in mind that, you know, you're gonna have a two-sided sign.
Well, You know,
I
because
don't remember the details, honestly. It's been a while since we.
we have signage at our existing hotel in Woodstock that we have a building, it's, we call it the Tanner, it's the lobby, and we had always, right, on the side of the building, we'd always wanted to plan to put like for lack of a better word, like a distressed, like painted sign, one that looks like it was there for years and years and years, right? But now Ryan just actually brought up the concept of kind of do the same thing here, because when you were up at the, which I think is a great idea, I don't know, you know.
Oh, at Water Street?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, when you're up at Water Street, it's like clear as day, you'd be able to see it.
And it doesn't have to be either the name of the property, like, it could be an entry, a signage. You're coming into the hotel, and the name of the hotel is down there. Maybe it's something referring back to like the Box Factory or something from a historical standpoint that was up on the south.
Or original stuff.
When you look up at the Market Village, doesn't the antique store have a large sign that scrolls across the building?
So,
Or I mean, it just runs up along the building?
I can't remember. I can't.
It's for the antiques or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it also, the signage may be a function of the building size. I just don't remember, but it's, you know, New Paltz sign ordinance. It'll be easy enough to figure out.
Yeah, you know, something certainly thoughtful and
Yeah.
lots of.
I mean, weirdly, I think signage may matter less when everybody's arriving, you know, with Google Maps, GPS, you know, you just don't, it's not the same. Yeah. The other observation that Camilla and I were going to make, or we're thinking of Saturday, is just how much benefit you get because Water Street Market is so much higher. So, you know, had you wanted a variance, I think that would have been a relatively easy ask because it's so low and what surrounds it is quite a bit higher.
So to that point, we're still kind of working through our construction type. So, you know,
We may be there.
we may be
Well, I think,
talking about that.
you know, I feel like at the last meeting, we sort of left the door open for us to advocate if you need a couple of inches. And in the totality of things, I don't see that as a problem.
Good to know.
Good to know.
Yeah, so when are you next due at the planning board, or what are your
November 1st,
November 1st?
that's the first Tuesday of the month, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
We have a meeting, all of us tomorrow at our engineer's office to just kind of go through everything. And just make sure it's as full a package as possible. So that, you know, we actually pushed off the meeting with the planning board. We hope to meet with them on the 18th, which would have been tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
But we said, you know, everybody's like, let's just get everything together so that we're not going multiple times and missing the least
Yeah,
time. So that's
okay.
what I'm starting to.
So I think our move is to get something to the planning board by November 1st that, you know, shows an affirmative reaction. I mean, the details, you know, there's a long way to go with details like what to do here and what to do. Yeah, but I think they want to hear an opinion from us and we'll be glad to offer that.
Like we're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I think at that point, that's all they want from us and, you know, as your ideas evolve. But some of the things that, you know, I would, or just to put in the memo, I really like the use of natural products. I like the reference to what was there, or what is there, but won't be there anymore. I like the just general conservation around, yeah, the tracks and the space, that pathway up to the rail trail. I think will save you some trouble in the long run. You know, people are used to it, and it just seems like a nice gesture to. So I think there's a lot positive there. That'll be the tenor of our memo, which I'll make sure to copy to.
And the interpretive signage too,
And the signage thing.
which, you know, whatever help you guys can, you know, give us a little bit of guidance on, you know,
Yeah.
amazing. And yes, thank you very much.
Thanks for your
Yeah, we're
time.
super excited about it.
Likewise, I think it's really, really positive. So, and what a great find with those posts.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what the wood is?
I think some of it's Doug fir, if I'm not mistaken. It's pretty weathered. So Kim had made a suggestion to speak to Ron at Excelsior. Out of Kingston. He's great. We've worked with him, for years now. We've sourced a lot of wood from him.
He'll know in a jiffy.
What's that?
He'll know in a jiffy.
Oh, yeah. I don't know that they actually go in and like dismantle. That's gonna require us to, give it a little bit of thought on how we're gonna do that. But there's actually pieces of it we noticed the other day. There's kind of sitting on the ground.
Oh, wow.
So, which is great. And we're just gonna move them out. I don't have to dismantle anything. Move them out, meaning like reuse them. We can take them to the mill, and then it's almost like an application where we can skip plane it or circular saw it, and then put it in the lobby as a veneer on a wall, and just representative of what wood was there once before.
Lobby benches.
I mean, yeah, furnishings for sure. And I took a picture of some furnishings along the River to Ridge, and it looks like somebody did that same exact thing. They just repurposed wood that was there at one point. I'd like to believe that that's what they did. It looks like it was repurposed from that area.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Really.
So
thank you.
we will have something to the planning board. It probably will be later this week when we can draft it.
Okay.
And I'll make sure that, I think I only Kim's address, but you can distribute it.
Excellent.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Get
Exciting.
home safe, everyone. It's,
Likewise, yeah, it's that kind of.
nasty out there for a minute.
Do you guys want any?
Hang on to 'em.
You want to take a thousand?
No, I haven't.
All right.
Thank you again.
Yeah,
guys.
likewise. Safe travels back.
Thank you.
Colleagues, let's see if we can walk up.
Yeah, just like you say, with these two gable ends. Like there's like visually, like there's a certain expectation, like when you see the gable end, like there's a long, it's cool.
Dal, do you have any updates on meeting location? Should we just assume that this is the new?
This is really cool. I just don't know if it works with, again, like the concept of the additive nature, which, we'll see how important that is, but I think that could work, maybe introduce new material, maybe, but I think probably the best way maybe is just to continue this material along, but, it's explore what the options are in the city, Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Dal, I was wondering if you heard anything from Autumn about meeting locations. Is this our new normal, do you think? No. That would be.
I don't know if you had a chance to look at planning and development work lately, but they have good stuff in space. Actually, far more active, professional.
Good.
And hopefully for them, they have a smart office and shared boards. Autumn told me tonight she's gonna set up for me every time we meet her, and we'll set it up.
Okay, that's a breakthrough.
That will help.
Okay. So we should assume November 21st at the firehouse, former firehouse.
The thing is, the very day I had this.
Yeah.
Paper was the day that court brought on. So.
Because timing wouldn't allow it, okay.
That would be our.
And no radio in the background any longer?
That was one of the most difficult things to listen to the recording from last week.
Oh, I'll tell you.
It was hard, it was like, wasn't picking everybody up and sound quality was bad, but we had radio.
Crackling away.
Yes, that's the one we got.
Okay,
We're
well,
still stuck in the lounge area, the right beside that. Pavilion, there's supposed to be some fire, but it's not that it's a meeting.
I just have a quick question. Once approval is given, what's the time frame for an applicant to begin work?
approval lasts
Start the work within the year.
within a year, finish it within 2.
Okay, then I'll give you an update on HPC 2106, which is
Oh, okay.
Huguenot Street project at our house. We'll be beginning on the deck and pergola this week.
Oh, terrific.
So Jason Clark will be doing demolition, and then we'll be assembling that pretty quickly, I hope. So that was approved at the October 21st meeting of last year, and we have the building permit.
Okay. Well, as you know, we
An extension.
we have given extensions. if
I,
they-
I remember Bob Doris at Mile House
Yeah.
Street, and that was down Huguenot also, that's there was the ways, but we'll just keep going.
That's great.
Spoke to us about the project, and they are just looking at some deals. The quotes were very high. I was
Razan
talking about
Dev.
Razan Dev's project. The last time I talked to them, they were waiting on new bids for the project.
Did they decide not to go with the?
Well, not the original one, it was very expensive. And they are trying to find it more financially feasible alternative.
Everybody, item 10 is other business. Is there anything that we've overlooked or you wanted to release? Can I just raise a couple of things then really quickly? One was in the September 21st Hudson Valley One, there was a nice article on the Gunks Gaming Cafe that we approved, and I thought it might be a nice gesture with everybody's permission to just send a clipping with the thoughts of the HPC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you guys been there yet?
No, I haven't.
It's cool.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. I've been
Cool,
there a
okay.
handful of times.
And what did you play, if I may?
You know, we actually haven't played any games yet. We just go there for coffee and just kind of, talk with the owners. They're nice.
They had some baked goods, they had like a little glass case
Yeah.
with baked goods and things
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
some
I
good
walked
stuff.
by one morning when they were just opening up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done that yet. But yeah, I'll send it with just a little hello from the HPC. And then the other item was, there was a nice piece on the October 5th about Bill Rhodes' research into the Elverhoy colony. And I don't know, did anybody get to see this? Can I wanted to, and we had a child show up impromptu, so that was that. I'll tell you what, I eventually would like to give it to Bill as an extra, but why don't we share that around? And, the other bit of business I wanted to ask your collective advice. So tomorrow at the planning board meeting, our neighbors have a project that's being considered, and as neighbors, we were given a notice of the hearing, which I can't attend, but I wanted to write a letter of support or letter of no objection to their project. But it's also a house that's 2 doors off the new preservation district. It's a large, beautiful Victorian house with wood siding. And I thought that it might be a nice gesture to offer the services of the HPC as they think about the details of this design. And I didn't want to do that without your permission. Had we not been meeting the day before, I would not have done anything except just spoken in my own voice. But just wanted to see if everybody's comfortable sort of gesturing to remind them that we have free services. And I guess what I'm really saying is, I have some concerns that they're going to vinyl sign over this house as part of the renovation. And I feel like we're right back to what we've been talking about with the Jameson House. So I think I can just kind of say, we're here for consultation, say something about the historic value of this circa 1900 house that is just a little outside our purview.
I think it would be a nice gesture, even if they weren't your neighbors. I think it would be very nice to offer that to them, and hopefully they'll be leading the horse to water and they'll come drink.
Kind of, yeah, and maybe sharing some of the literature other than citing questions. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
I just didn't want to overstep.
Annex a little bit extra every so
It's worked so well in Eastern Europe after all. Oh, God, I can't even make it.
Too soon.
Anything else? Anybody think of other business? So maybe we should just do executive session and then wrap up as quickly as we can. Val, let's see, I guess YouTube goes off. What about the microphone? Or would that be irrelevant once we're?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, we wouldn't be like-
Okay, it actually, oh no, should I just